I pretended to be a beta and stayed with Patrick. He despised omegas more than anything, yet I ended up pregnant. Before my belly began to show, I ran. Later, I was alone, heavily pregnant, hiding in a tiny rental apartment. In the middle of the night, I suddenly caught the scent of Patrick's pheromones. I thought I was dreaming. Tears streaming down my face, I opened my eyes and met his dark, shadow gaze. "Whose bastard is my baby carrying?" he said softly. "Be good, tell me, and we'll keep the child and get rid of the father. I'm a defective amiga. My glands never fully developed. I have almost no pheromones at all. Most people think I'm a beta, including Patrick. Someone like me, a defective amiga, should never have crossed paths with a top-tier alpha. But during his heat, I was serving drinks at a club. I lost my footing and spilled an entire tray all over him. The private room went silent. The people around us looked at me with pity. Another one who doesn't know how to die, daring to provoke Patrick during his heat. Remember the last person who tried to seduce Patrick like this? He was beaten half to death. I shivered. "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to." Patrick lifted his eyes and held out a hand. I thought he was going to hit me. Instinctively, I raised my arms to shield my face. "Could you not hit my face? If I was disfigured, I'd lose my job. I needed this job too much. I needed money even more." The punch never came. Instead, I was yanked into a scorching hot embrace. Patrick's voice was hoarse. "You're a beta," he said, "and you really need money?" I nodded. "A father who died too early, a sick mother, a sister still in school, and me already shattered." His handsome face leaned closer, heat radiating from his body. Then he asked quietly, "You want to come with me in the hotel room?" I clutched the bath towel tightly. "It's my first time," I whispered. "Could you be gentler?" He let out a low scoff and cut me off, his voice rough. "You don't have to put on an act with me. We're using protection anyway, as long as you're clean." "I don't care." I opened my mouth then closed it again. I was clean. But working in a place like that, serving drinks, even if I explained, he wouldn't believe me. He kept me for days and nights on end. At first, he still retained a bit of reason. But later, a top-tier alpha in heat was nothing more than a beast. There wasn't a single unmarked patch of skin left on my neck. I bit down on the pillow, tears soaking the sheets. When Patrick finally woke up, he seemed to have forgotten me entirely. Like a brief amnesia that came with the end of heat, dragging my broken body upright, I tried to ask for payment only for Patrick to grab me by the throat. He slammed me against the bedside cabinet, disgust written all over his face. "What kind of tricks did you use on me?" His grip was tight. I couldn't breathe properly. My voice came out hoarse. "You were the one who asked me if I wanted to go with you." He looked down at me, cold and superior. "You think I'd want you? An ordinary beta with no pheromones, an average body, and a face that's..." He stared at me for a long moment, then, inexplicably, the tips of his ears reddened. Just that, he released me. I lowered my head. "As a defective amiga, I was used to being spoken to like this." Still it hurt. His voice turned indifferent again. "Did you use protection?" I shook my head, fingers twisting nervously into the corner of the sheets. "You didn't allow it." Those days were a blur of desire and confusion. Whenever I tried to reach for anything, Patrick would pin my hands down. In a moment of panic, I confessed, "Mr. Lin, I'm actually an amiga. I'm afraid of getting pregnant." Patrick's voice dropped low as he pressed my wrist above my head, gentle and coaxing. "Then have the baby," he murmured. "I'll raise it." I closed my eyes and gave up resisting. But now, all I could see was the wariness in his eyes. I laughed at myself bitterly. Of course, he had forgotten everything. Men's words in bed are never trustworthy. In the end, Patrick tossed me a check. "Don't think you can climb your way up using tricks like this. I've seen plenty of your kind." After he left, I squatted on the floor and picked up the check he had thrown away. I had gotten a lot of money, so why did I still feel like crying? Later, I learned that Patrick despised omegas more than anything, and I secretly felt relieved. Thank goodness I hadn't confessed my true identity to him. With the money he gave me, I paid for my mother's surgery and my sister's tuition. I never expected that a month later, I would run into Patrick again. From the moment I stepped into the private room, his gaze stayed fixed on me, his expression unreadable. My legs weakened instinctively. I lost my balance and accidentally spilled wine all over his friend's chest. "I'm sorry, sir." I hurried to grab some tissues to wipe it up, but Patrick seized my wrist. At some point, he had already come to stand beside me. His tone was mocking. Using the same trick again to seduce people." His grip was tight, painfully so. I didn't. Before I could finish, he yanked me into his arms. He pinched my face, teeth clenched. "Instead of flirting with others, you might as well come back to me." He took me back to his villa and tossed a contract at me, a kept companion agreement. 100,000 a month, An outrageous sum. I couldn't earn that much in a year. Before signing, I hesitated. All the principles I once believed in: benevolence, righteousness, propriety, wisdom, faith. But my mother needed money for the hospital. My sister needed money for school. I was already in the abyss. They were my stars. As long as they could live well, it didn't matter what happened to me. In the end, I sold myself. When my mother got the money, she asked me with reddened eyes, "Where did you get so much money?" I didn't know how to lie. I could only lower my head in silence. She tugged at my clothes, then saw the kiss marks on my body. They were left by Patrick the night before. Her eyes instantly turned red. Her hands trembled as she reached for the tubes. "Son, Mom won't get treated anymore." My body shook, my eyes burned. Just then, my sister's cheerful voice rang out in the ward, "Brother, I already paid my tuition to the teacher." My mother froze, then abruptly turned away. I hurriedly pulled my clothes back into place. "That's good," I said. My sister's small body threw itself into my arms, rubbing against me happily. Nearby, my mother covered her face, forcing herself not to cry aloud. In the end, I held their hands and forced out a smile. "You both have to live well, because only if you live well can I keep going." When I stepped out of the ward, I saw Patrick leaning against the wall, waiting for me. His thumb brushed gently beneath my eyes. "You cry in a way that makes people feel sorry for you." I lowered my head and said nothing. If he hadn't insisted on leaving marks all over me the night before, they wouldn't have been discovered. But last night, Patrick had been like a wild dog. He wouldn't stop until he had marked me from head to toe. The next day, my mother was transferred to a premium ward. My sister was admitted to the best high school. The price was that I couldn't get out of bed for another full day. He held me in his arms, my body drenched in sweat. "Are betas really this soft?" he murmured. "Stephen, I really want to die on you." I didn't have the strength to respond. As a defective omega, I was softer than most betas, and unlike ordinary omegas, I wasn't supposed to get pregnant so easily. Still, I was terrified of carrying a child. Since that last time, Patrick had never used protection again. Every time, I could only secretly take medication. Long-term use was terrible for an omega's body. But I never thought about the future. Once my mother recovered, once my sister got into college, I would be free. Just hang on a little longer, Stephen. Patrick was going on a business trip for me. That was good news, but before he left, he made sure I couldn't get out of bed again. After he was gone, I dragged myself up to take the pills. Maybe I really had taken too much, because in the middle of the night, a sudden, violent pain tore through my abdomen. It felt like countless knives twisting inside me. I clutched my stomach, curling up on the bed, tears streaming down my face. Half asleep, half awake, I suddenly felt someone gently wiping the corner of my eye. I opened my eyes. The figure before me was blurry. I thought I was dreaming and reached out to brush against him. "Dad, is that you?" After my father died, he had never once appeared in my dreams. Maybe he was still angry with me. The voice in the dream was low and pleasant, calling me Dad now? I was gone for just one night. How did you manage to mess yourself up like this? A large hand covered my stomach, rubbing gently. Good thing I couldn't stop worrying. I rushed back overnight to check on you. Tomorrow, I'll take you for an exam. The word exam jolted me fully awake. I grabbed Patrick's wrist, my face pale as I shook my head. No, if I did it, my omega status would be exposed. Under his questioning gaze, I lied. "I'm afraid of doctors." "All right," he said. "Whatever you want." I finally relaxed and closed my eyes. But the next day, he still called a private physician. He said it was a friend of his, someone who studied medicine. Patrick pinned me down forcefully and made me undergo a full examination. "Don't be scared," he said. "I'll have James be gentler." During the examination, a flicker of confusion crossed James's cool features. "You're a beta." After saying that, he glanced at Patrick, hesitating as if he wanted to say more. My face drained of color. Was I about to be exposed? Before James could say anything, I clenched his sleeve tightly. "Dr. James, I really am a beta," I said hurriedly. My stomach just started hurting all of a sudden. Maybe I ate something bad. My voice trembled. My heart was pounding up into my throat. When I looked at James, my gaze was almost pleading. I only hoped that he wouldn't expose me. He stared at me for a long moment. In the end, he chose to send Patrick away. James frowned, his tone stern. "You pretended to be a beta to get close to Patrick. What was your purpose? You even went so far as to take this much birth control medication. Do you have any idea how much damage that does to an omega's body?" I tugged at his sleeve, begging. "I just wanted money. Please, can you not tell Patrick? I know he hates omegas. If he finds out, he'll never choose me. Dr. James, I'm begging you." He studied me in silence for a long while. "All right," he said at last. Relief hit me all at once, and I burst into tears. "Thank you," I whispered. James lingered on my smile for several seconds before finally looking away. When Patrick returned, he rubbed his thumb beneath my reddened eyes, clearly displeased. "James, what kind of examination requires you to send me away? And why did you make him cry?" James let out a scoff, his tone mocking. "Is it this your own doing? You worked your bed partner so hard he had to come see a doctor. I know you're impressive, buddy, but could you show a little restraint?" Patrick's face flushed, then paled. "His stomach hurts because of that," James pressed on. "Yeah. And let me guess you didn't use protection even once. He's a beta, he can't get pregnant." "There was no need," James cut him off. "Then did you help him clean up afterward? Leaving that stuff inside the body isn't good." I lowered my head beside them. Patrick, of course, had never helped me clean up. After venting his desires, he would simply toss me, limp as a puddle, onto the bed. Every time, I was the one who dragged my aching body to the bathroom, cleaned everything out myself, then crawled back to serve as his human pillow. In the end, James patted Patrick on the shoulder. "Patrick, treat him better." Patrick clicked, his tongue too delicate. I didn't expect Patrick to actually take James's words to heart. I still prepared myself to keep taking the pills. But when his heat came again, Patrick pulled out a package and tore it open. I froze. He was actually willing to use it. Not only did he use it, his movements became gentler, so gentle it was almost tortuous. He brushed against my neck and asked softly, "Steven, does this hurt?" I buried my face deep into the pillow and shook my head. "No, don't ask." But Patrick didn't listen. That maddening voice sounded again behind me. "Then how about this? Be good. Answer me." It was as if he had accidentally discovered a new form of entertainment. I bit my lip hard. The shame was unbearable. Patrick's long fingers toyed with my flushed earlobe, his voice low and pleased. "It's much hotter here than before." I stared at the ceiling, dazed. Patrick looked into my unfocused eyes and kissed me once. "My baby is so cute." Before the fireworks in my head had even faded, it finally hit me. What did Patrick just call me? Had I misheard? That kind of address was far too intimate. It shouldn't have come from his mouth. Given our relationship, before I could sort it out, Patrick suddenly scooped me up. I struggled instinctively. He pinned my flailing legs down. "Baby, let's wash up together." This time I heard it clearly. Those two words were unbearably gentle. So gentle that it felt as if something had seized my heart. Patrick's restraint only lasted at the beginning of his heat. After that, he became beast-like again, charging forward recklessly, craving pheromones. But I was a defective amiga. I couldn't release what he wanted. He buried his face into my neck, inhaling hard, then bit down viciously. I jolted. A trace of pheromones was actually drawn out. Patrick seemed satisfied. "My baby smells so good. I really like it." My heart stirred. I tried hard to sniff the air, but still, I smelled nothing. A quiet sense of loss crept in. The later his heat progressed, the clingier Patrick became. We spent an entire week together, like lovers, until one morning when I woke up. I nuzzled against his chest. He didn't give me a good morning kiss. Instead, his dark eyes stared down at me heavily. I realized then Patrick's heat was over. That brief, 7-day romance was about to disappear again. He patted my backside, his tone commanding. "Pack up, I'm taking you with me on this business trip." My throat was hoarse as I slipped out of his arms. "Okay." Yet an inexplicable sense of loss welled up inside me. All those moments of intimacy during his heat, Patrick wouldn't remember any of them, but I did. I remembered them all, painfully clearly. Patrick took me to a business banquet. The moment he arrived, he became the center of attention. People flocked over, flattering him as they raised their glasses. "President Hall, this is the first time you've brought someone with you. May I ask who this is?" Patrick wrapped an arm around my waist, his tone casual. "Someone I keep nearby." A businessman eyed my face with a leering smile. "So just a kept toy, then? When President Hall is done playing, could I have a taste too?" My fist clenched. Back when I worked at the club, this kind of thing wasn't rare. Rich people really did trade their toys. If Patrick actually handed me over, a dense, dull ache spread through my chest. I closed my eyes briefly. Then I'd have no choice but to go down fighting. But in the very next second, the man who had spoken was already slammed to the ground. Patrick smashed his wine glass. The jagged edge of the broken glass hovered inches from the man's eyes. "Look at him like that again," Patrick said coldly, "and I'll make sure you never see out of those eyes again." The room fell deathly silent. Sweat poured down the man's face as he finally came to his senses and begged frantically, "I'm sorry, President Hall. I drank too much. I was just joking." Patrick released him and wiped his hands calmly. You skimmed quite a bit off that last project behind my back, didn't you? I hate liars more than anything. Asterisk he paused, then added lightly, I don't want to see you in this industry ever again. Just one casual sentence. The man on the floor went completely pale, so did I. Patrick hadn't been talking to me, but I had lied to him too. I was also one of the liars he despised the most. Patrick took my hand and idly played with my fingers. Why are your hands so cold? He asked, scared. I didn't dare respond. His expression darkened. He narrowed his eyes and leaned close, grinding out each word. Stephen, do you really think I'd hand you over to someone else? I shivered instinctively. Patrick was angry again. That night, he took me back to the hotel. I struggled, trying to reach for something, but he yanked off his tie and bound my hands. You're not allowed to use it tonight, he said coldly. This is punishment in the end. My strength gave out, and I blacked out. In a daze, I felt him holding me as he cleaned me up in the bathtub. Patrick bit down hard on my neck. Damn it, why can't betas be marked? His voice was low and dangerous. Stephen, you can only be mine on my birthday. Patrick took me to meet his friends. He wrapped an arm around my waist. Let me introduce him to you all, he said casually. This is Stephen. Their gazes swept over me. I forced a smile when it was time to cut the cake. Patrick fastened a watch around my wrist. Soft lighting fell across his profile. It's the same model as mine, he said. There are only 2 of them in all of Country A. His friends noticed immediately and started teasing. Young Master Hall spent a fortune hunting down that limited edition watch. So it was all to please a beauty. He even traded away his prized sports car for it. The one he treasured for years gave it up just like that. Young Master Hall really is generous. The speaker had no ill intent, but the listener did. If something he had cherished for years could be given away so easily, then what about me? If one day Patrick stopped liking me, would he discard me just as casually? Feelings I shouldn't have had surged up uncontrollably. My eyes stung. Patrick finished fastening the watch and smiled at me. Moved already? I swallowed down the bitterness in my chest. Yeah, partway through, Patrick had to step out. Wait here. Be good. I stayed seated. His friends were all rich heirs, chatting about topics I couldn't take part in. Luckily, no one paid me much attention. Then suddenly, the conversation shifted toward me. Stephen, young Master G, right? What kind of business does your family run? Before I could answer, a malicious voice cut in from the side. What business? Could it be? Selling male escorts at clubs. I've seen him myself. The group of young men burst into laughter. Just a beta relying on his face and a bit of luck to cling to young Master Hall. Does he really think that eating with us makes him one of us now? I didn't respond. I simply lowered my head and continued eating in silence. The next second, a piece of duck rump was tossed into my bowl. A nasty voice followed. You're what you eat, right? I stared at the food in my bowl. Before I could even feel angry, my stomach lurched violently. I threw up. A sharp pain tore through my abdomen. Damn, he's puking disgusting as hell. What? Trying to fake an accident for compensation? Hey, stop pretending. Clutching my stomach, I blacked out from the pain. When I woke up again, I was in a hospital room. The smell of disinfectant was overwhelming. James stood at the bedside, holding a report. His expression was grim. Dr. James, what's wrong with me? He looked at me and spoke quietly. You're pregnant. My mind went blank. Pregnant? But we used protection every time. Could it have been that night at the banquet with Patrick? My thoughts were a mess. James pushed up his glasses. Do you want to keep it? I lowered my head and placed a hand on my still flat stomach. There was a new life growing there, a child, belonging to Patrick and me. For a brief moment, I wanted to keep it. But if I did, my belly would show one day. And when that happened, Patrick would find out that I wasn't a beta at all. What would he do to me then? I was just a defective omega too. Him killing me would be easier than crushing an ant. Stephen, James asked suddenly. Do you know why Patrick hates omegas so much? His question snapped me out of my thoughts. I shook my head. Patrick's first love was a top-tier omega, James said quietly. But that person suddenly left him and went abroad. It hurt him badly. From then on, he began to hate all omegas indiscriminately. That name is a taboo for him now. None of us dare mention it. A dull ache spread through my chest, bitter and suffocating. So that was why Patrick had once loved someone that deeply, and because of that person, he came to despise every omega, including me. James looked at me with pity, and his first love is coming back next week, most likely. This time, it's for Patrick. My heart sank. Then what about me and the child in my belly? James patted my shoulder, his tone heavy with concern. I can help you keep your pregnancy hidden from Patrick. But Stephen, I advise you to think about a way out for yourself. Don't sink too deep into Patrick. As for the child, whether to keep it or not, decide carefully and tell me if you want to leave. I can help you. I stayed in a daze the entire time Patrick drove me home. Dr. James's words replayed in my mind over and over. Patrick cupped my face, forcing me to look at him. I was gone from the banquet for barely a moment. He demanded, "What happened?" "Nothing. Even if you don't tell me, I can find out myself." But my attention had already been drawn to a family of 3 not far away. A small child bounced along, holding his father's hand with one hand and his mother's with the other. His face lit up with happiness. I watched them. If only my child could have a family that happy. Patrick's warm breath brushed against my ear. "Do you like kids?" I quickly looked away, then shook my head. I was terrified that he might see through me. He bit lightly at my earlobe. "Too bad you're a beta," he said lazily. "But if a beta gets damned enough, who knows, maybe you could get pregnant too." My face burned. I knew it was just dirty talk. Yet I couldn't stop myself from asking softly, "Patrick, if an Omega were carrying your child, would you want it?" His answer was immediate and decisive. "No. I hate Omegas more than anything, and I would never have a child with an Omega, so don't worry." I didn't hear most of what he said. After that, my hands and feet turned ice cold. That was it. Every one of his deal breakers, I had stepped on them all. Patrick seemed displeased by my distraction. He pinched my cheek. "Stephen, what's wrong with you? You look awful. Are you still not feeling well?" I stiffened. "I'm fine." But deep down, I made a silent decision. If I wanted to keep the child, I could only run. Before I had a chance to talk to Dr. James, I met Patrick's first love, a top-tier Omega Raymond. He had just returned from abroad and invited many friends to welcome him back, including Patrick. That night, Patrick held me and asked, "Stephen, do you want me to go?" I was very aware of my place and nodded vigorously, even though I didn't want him to go at all. But I was, after all, just something he kept still. Patrick wasn't satisfied. He stared at me hard, grinding his teeth. "Fine, then I'll go." I didn't expect him to take me along. The moment I walked in, everyone at the table looked unhappy. After the last banquet, they had all gotten into trouble with Patrick over a mere beta. They were already holding back resentment. "Young Master Hall, we're welcoming Raymond back. Why bring him along? This is our inner circle. Why bring an outsider?" Every word dripped with disdain toward me. Patrick swept them with a cold glance. "Stephen isn't an outsider." They fell silent. I stole a glance at Raymond. As expected of a top-tier Omega. Beautiful, yet not delicate. That face alone was enough to make me lose focus. Raymond smiled at us. "It's fine if Patrick wants to bring him. Let him." So beautiful. Suddenly, pain shot through my wrist. Patrick tightened his grip, his voice low with warning. "What are you looking at? Don't look." I immediately pulled my gaze back. My chest felt sour. As expected, even a single glance at his treasured one was enough to make Patrick unhappy. At dinners in the past, I used to serve Patrick the dishes he liked. Today, I only kept my head down and ate. They talked about the past at the table, about how close Patrick and Raymond had once been. As I listened, I nearly buried my head in my bowl. I shouldn't have come to this dinner, until Patrick suddenly grabbed my wrist. His voice edged with anger. "Is the food really that good?" I looked up, still chewing blankly, and met his dark expression. Of course, was I still too much of an eyesore here? Just as I was about to speak, Raymond placed some food into Patrick's bowl. His tone was gentle, soothing. "Patrick, don't be angry. Eat a little. These are your favorite shrimp." I shrank back slightly. I wish I could dig a hole and bury myself. That way, I wouldn't disturb their reunion. But Patrick didn't eat. He only stared at me coldly. I couldn't ignore his gaze, so I forced an uncomfortable smile. "You don't need to mind me." Before I could finish, Patrick's expression darkened further. He slammed his bowl down. The shrimp fell to the floor, dusted with dirt. What a waste, discarded without hesitation. But that was always Patrick's way, including with me. He probably didn't want me anymore, either. The dinner ended badly. The moment we got home, Patrick pressed me against the door and kissed me. But halfway through, my stomach churned violently again. "Patrick, let go. I feel sick." I shoved him away and ran to the bathroom, dry heaving. Maybe it was because I was pregnant I felt nauseous all the time now. Patrick's face darkened even more. He stared at me and asked through clenched teeth, "Stephen, kissing me makes you that sick?" I didn't, but the nausea wouldn't stop. Furious, he held me down and forced me to rinse my mouth. Afterward, he pinned me again, his voice harsh. "Even if you're sick, you still have to take my mouth." He picked me up and threw me onto the bed. Patrick caught the back of my neck between his teeth, grinding down. "Not just your mouth. You'll take it down there too. Even though it wasn't his heat, he was unusually rough this time. Who's biting you right now? He demanded. Answer me, Patrick. Who is Patrick to you? My patron. Wrong. In the end, he drove me to tears. I broke down, begging incoherently. As my vision blurred, I heard a faint, almost indistinct sentence. Stephen, I really want to mark you completely. Only then would I feel at ease. I felt dazed. A defective amiga couldn't be marked. But he didn't know my body had already been opened by him long ago, again and again, completely. And now it carried his child. I thought that now that Patrick's first love had returned, he would finally end this relationship. I waited every day for him to say it was over. But his attitude toward me didn't change at all. If anything, he watched me even more closely. Now, whenever I went out to visit my mother and sister, bodyguards followed me everywhere. Dr. James wanted to help me leave, but there was only so much he could do. As the months passed, my belly grew fuller and fuller. One night, Patrick rested his hand on my stomach. Finally put on some flesh, he said casually. Looks like you've been eating well lately. I'll give Aunt Zhang a raise. My body stiffened. I could no longer hold it in. I took the initiative to suggest we separate. His expression darkened. Anger flickered in his eyes as he asked two words. Why? I swallowed. Raymond is back. I think it's better if I leave. He let out a cold laugh. What does his return have to do with you leaving? My heart sank. Don't tell me Patrick planned to be with Raymond, while still keeping me on the side. I'd heard before that wealthy people had strong possessive instincts. Even if they no longer liked what they kept, they wouldn't let go. Patrick probably intended to do the same. If I changed my feelings, would he finally let me go? I clenched my teeth and lied again. I like someone else. Patrick's face turned instantly grim. Who? I stammered, unable to answer. That night, he flew into a rage. He grabbed my throat and pinned me to the bed, forcing me to tell him the name of the person I liked. I couldn't say it. The more I stayed silent, the rougher he became. Stephen, you're mine. I'm not letting you go. You've slept with me so many times. Does the person you like know that? Do they know what you're like beneath me? Patrick caught my neck between his teeth. He left bite marks over and over again. No matter how I begged, he wouldn't stop. In the end, I had no strength left. I lay there silently, tears slipping down. Patrick flipped me over, met my tear-filled eyes, and muttered a curse under his breath. Irritated, the days that followed were not easy. Patrick didn't touch me. He kept a cold face toward me yet still refused to let me go. The pregnancy advanced rapidly. It would soon be impossible to hide. Then came one piece of good news. Patrick was finally going on another business trip. This time, it would be a full week, and he didn't mention taking me along. Before leaving, he grabbed my chin and warned me viciously, stay home and reflect properly. Don't even think about leaving again. I agreed obediently. The moment he turned away, I sent Dr. James a message. The night before I was supposed to leave, I received an anonymous photo. The background was a cafe. Patrick and Raymond sat facing each other. I didn't know what they were talking about, but Raymond was smiling brightly. On Patrick's wrist was that watch. The glare from its surface stabbed into my eyes. I stared at the photo for a long time, my resolve to leave hardened completely. The next day, I didn't take much with me. I only brought one of Patrick's shirts. It still carried his scent. Dr. James said that even if a defective amiga couldn't smell pheromones, pregnancy still required periodic soothing pheromones from an alpha. It might come in handy. I also kept the watch, Patrick's birthday gift to me. I'd worn it for so long that taking it off felt wrong. Maybe it was just habit, but I couldn't bear to remove it. Dr. James had me fake an illness and very easily escorted me out of the villa. As for my mother, he helped arrange her transfer to another hospital and my sister's school, with James stepping in. The transfer paperwork was handled swiftly. In just 2 days, everything was done. I'd been with Patrick for nearly 2 years. Ending it completely only took 2 days. Once everything was settled, a hollow sense of loss crept in. It felt like something important had been forcibly torn out of my life. Dr. James leaned close and spoke near my ear. Stephen, if you ever need it, you can contact me anytime. I can give you my pheromones. My eyes reddened with emotion. Why are you being so good to me? He patted my head, his voice unusually gentle. What do you think? I shook my head. I didn't know. Someone like me, a defective amiga, what was there worth helping? Maybe he just pitied me. Before James left, he suddenly glanced back at me, his tone meaningful, with reflexes that stole. No wonder Patrick keeps losing ground with you. I looked at him in confusion, but he only curved his lips into a faint smile. Nothing. I blocked every way of contacting Patrick. I focused on resting and carrying the pregnancy in the rental apartment. Dr. James came to check on me from time to time, but this time, he brought another alpha with him. The moment that man stepped inside, he shot me a hostile look and spoke irritably. The little thing Patrick's keeping got knocked up wide. Does that keep troubling my wife? James shot him a look. A faint blush crept onto his usually cool face. Who's your wife? Get lost. After they left, I noticed that Dr. James's earring had fallen on the cabinet. I picked it up, intending to return it, but the moment I stepped outside, I saw that tall alpha pressing James against the car door, kissing him. He opened his eyes and met mine. They were filled with possessiveness and a clear warning. Even as he kissed James, he threatened him softly. James, if you don't want that little one you like to find out, stay quiet, otherwise. Next time, believe it or not, I'll take you right in front of him. Dr. James seemed furious and slapped him hard. The tall alpha didn't get angry. Instead, he laughed, kissed James's palm, and asked, "Did that hurt, honey?" I didn't keep watching. I closed the door, my face burning. If I remembered correctly, they were both top-tier alphas. That night, I curled up under the covers. It had been 2 months since I left Patrick, and I still wasn't used to it. It felt like something was missing. My heart felt hollow. But Patrick was probably with Raymond now. He wouldn't think of me at all. I clutched the shirt I had brought with me, the one that belonged to Patrick. Maybe pregnancy had made my omega glands more sensitive. For the first time since leaving him, I smelled his pheromones. Bitter absinthe, just like Patrick himself. Sharp, aggressive, overwhelming. But as time passed, the scent on the shirt faded more and more. The harder I tried to hold on, the faster it slipped away. By now, I could barely smell Patrick at all. I fell asleep in tears. In the middle of the night, I suddenly smelled his pheromones. Again, I opened my eyes and met Patrick's dark, shadowed gaze. My baby's only been gone from me for a little while, he said slowly. So, how did your belly get this big already? I stared blankly at that familiar face. Was this a dream? Was I dreaming of him again? I reached out, wanting to touch him, but Patrick grabbed my wrist. His gaze was fixed on my swollen belly, his tone coaxing yet oppressive. Baby, whose bastard is in your belly? Speak. The grip on my wrist told me this wasn't a dream. Patrick's pheromones were unstable. He must be in heat again. Instinctively, I shielded my belly and shrank back in fear. Patrick's eyes reddened. He gritted his teeth and said, "What are you hiding from? You're pregnant, and the person you like isn't even here with you. He lets you live in a dump like this, and you still want to cover for that piece of trash." I opened my mouth, wanting to explain, but I didn't know where to begin. Should I explain that I pretended to be a beta for money and deceived him? Or explain that he was the scumbag he was talking about? Patrick hated liars, and he hated omegas. Not to mention that his first love had already returned. If Patrick found out the truth, could the child even survive? So I shrank back further and said softly, "It has nothing to do with you." Then I lowered my head in shame, waiting for his anger. But Patrick merely restrained his fury, grinding his teeth as he coaxed me again. "It does have something to do with me. Be good, tell me whose bastard you're carrying. We'll get rid of the father and keep the child." I froze. Did he mean the child could stay? Under the heavy pressure of Patrick's gaze, I murmured, "Yours?" He snapped harshly. "Fine. Wait here, I'll go deal with him right now." Then he suddenly seemed to process my words. His expression turned incredulous. "Wait, who did you say?" I repeated carefully, "Your bastard." Patrick froze completely. Then he swore. Damn. Patrick stood there for a long time before finally seeming to accept reality. "You were pregnant. And didn't tell me. Why did you run?" I was still uneasy, afraid he would settle accounts with me. "Aren't you angry that I lied to you?" "I'm not a beta, I'm a defective omega. And your first love is back, Raymond." He watching his expression grow darker and darker. I stopped and coaxed him softly. "Anyway, don't be angry." Patrick let out a laugh that sounded more like disbelief. He ground his molars. "Why would I be angry? I'm happy, if anything." Seeing how lost I still looked, he leaned down and kissed me. "It's late. Go to sleep first, baby. Tomorrow we'll talk properly. You just need to know one thing. Steven, I love you." I froze completely. Was I still dreaming? Was this what I thought it meant? Patrick gently hugged my stiff body from behind. Soothing pheromones flooded the room without restraint. Sleepiness washed over me, my thoughts scattering just as I was drifting off. I felt something warm and damp against the back of my neck, and Patrick's aggrieved, subdued voice. I thought, my baby didn't want me anymore. He didn't leave all night. He even ran into James, who came for the scheduled checkup in the morning. James whistled. "Well, that was fast. You found him already." Patrick replied coldly, "Shut up. I haven't settled things with you yet." The tall alpha who was with Dr. James stepped forward, shielding him. His tone was displeased. Don't you have your own wife? Why are you snapping at mine? Patrick turned his head and looked at me pitifully. I avoided his gaze. Even now, everything still felt unreal. Patrick's eyes grew even more grieved. After the examination, Patrick packed me up and brought me straight home the entire ride. I was restless, afraid that I might run into Raymond, how awkward that would be. But when we arrived, there was no one else, just the two of us. I tugged at his sleeve and asked softly, "Isn't Raymond here?" Patrick answered with a straight face. "He can stay wherever he wants, just not my place. The only one who gets to stay here is you." Then, as if something clicked, he grabbed my face, looking serious. "Don't tell me the person you like is him. No wonder you kept staring at him when you met, then later you even." After a long string of complaints, as if afraid I still wouldn't give up, he added earnestly, "Baby, Omega with Omega relationships never work out." I was completely confused. "Wasn't the one who liked Raymond for years you?" Patrick looked as if he had finally run out of options. "Stephen," he said helplessly, "I really want to pry open that little head of yours and see what's inside. What do I have to say to make you believe that the person I've always liked is you?" After saying that, a faint blush crept onto his face. "From the moment I first saw you, forget it. Let's just do it." He dropped to one knee, his fingers brushing the waistband of my pants. Patrick licked his lips. "Does it feel good, baby?" I tugged at his hair, letting out broken, blissful sounds. He looked at my face, his eyes filled with unmistakable affection. Then he focused entirely on pleasing me. This time, I think I finally believed him. The room was filled with Patrick's pheromones. For the first time, I smelled my own, fresh lime. They blended together, indistinguishable from one another. The baby was born smoothly. Dr. James personally oversaw everything, bringing along a whole team of renowned specialists. When the door opened, Patrick didn't even glance at the child with reddened eyes. He grabbed my hand. "Baby, did it hurt?" Weakly, I shook my head. Later, my mother's health recovered almost completely, and my sister was admitted to high school. Everything was finally moving in a good direction. But one night after Patrick had coaxed our well-behaved little one to sleep and returned to the bedroom, I finally couldn't help taking out that photo. The one of him and Raymond. Back then, I couldn't resist secretly saving it, thinking that after leaving, it might serve as a keepsake. Patrick panicked. "Baby, it's a setup." "It's definitely a setup." His voice sounded aggrieved. "I only had a meal with him because our families have business ties. And Raymond already had a fiancée back then. Baby, I'm really innocent." Later, we found out that the photo had been sent by James. When Patrick learned the truth, he exploded. He called his childhood friend and lodged a long, furious complaint. It was said that Dr. James was thoroughly dealt with, so much so that he didn't get out of bed for an entire week. When our little one had grown a bit, Patrick suddenly asked if I wanted to go back and take the college entrance exam. My heart stirred, but I hesitated. Can I really do it? Back then, when my mother fell ill, I was only in my second year of high school. I dropped out to earn money. When my teacher found out, he could only sigh regretfully. "What a pity. Your grades were so good." Patrick kissed me lightly, pulling me out of my memories. "Baby, you absolutely can. Don't worry. You don't need to care about the little one. I'll take care of everything." After we got married, he really was a very competent father. He handled childcare personally, though in truth he was afraid the baby would steal my affection and attention. So he chose to strike first. When I later realized his little scheme, I laughed at how childish he was. Patrick buried his head against my chest. "I just want my wife to look at me a little more." With Patrick's encouragement, I went back to school to repeat the year. As an older candidate, many things felt unfamiliar, but picking it back up wasn't as hard as I'd imagined. Besides, Patrick hired top tutors for one-on-one lessons. During the day, he took the baby to the company with him. In the evenings, he came home after work and cooked me good food. As the exam approached, I once again refused his advances. Patrick's expression spelled out 3 clear words: regret. During his heat, he looked so aggrieved he was almost in tears. I could only coax him. In the end, I was pinned beneath him while reciting passages. My words came out broken and uneven, barely coherent. Patrick kept encouraging me. "Baby, you're doing great. What's the next line?" I couldn't take it anymore and slapped him. He only got more excited. On the day the college entrance exam ended, Patrick waited for me at the school gate with my mother and sister. He was holding a bouquet of flowers. Seeing them from afar, I felt dazed. In an instant, I was taken back to the day my middle school entrance exam ended. That day, my father had taken time off work and brought my mother and sister to pick me up. Seeing everyone else holding flowers, he decided to buy some too. There happened to be a flower shop across the street from the school. That was when the Accident happened. A large truck lost control. The flowers were thrown violently into the air, then crashed back down. Patrick patted my back, pulling me out of my memories beside us. My mother's and sister's eyes were both wet. Patrick ruffled my hair and pushed the flowers into my arms. Congratulations to our baby on ranking among the top. In a daze, it felt as if I heard a distant, ethereal sigh drifting through the air, crossing death and time itself. Stephen, congratulations on your success.